I've got the money in my pocket. We'll go to the park with my friends. I've got the money in my pocket. We'll go to the clubs with my friends. I've got the money in my pocket. We'll go to the sea with my friends. I've got the money in my pocket. We'll follow their dreams till the end.
Oh, I can't breathe. Okay. Coronavirus. Gotta stay safe. Cool. Hello, everyone. Oh my god, I'm so nervous. Hi, everyone. How's it going? Okay, so I will start playing heckin' stream beats. I'm sorry, I've never had this many viewers in a live stream before. But hi, I hope you're all doing good. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Okay. 1 sec. Stick that to 5. Get some lo-fi on in here, why not? There we go. Great, wonderful. So, geez. Hello, I'm Mr. Deloop, also known as Matt Jenkins in the real world. Mr. Deloop is my superhero name. And I'm a film and animation editor, so I've been on YouTube now making stuff for over 13 years, which sounds amazing, but the truth is I was making Shadow the Hedgehog AMVs and YouTube poops for the majority of that. But I joined the fandom, and then I realized I could turn it into a career, so I did. So here I'm doing a little bit of a stream talking about my progress from the PMV fandom to the film industry and things I've learned, tips and tricks, and stuff like that. So yes, this is one of the films I worked on, Boudica, Rise of the Warrior Queen. It's very cool to actually have something I made edited. But bear in mind, I know a lot of you have been wondering what I've actually made. If you do look them up on IMDb, they haven't got the best ratings. But you know, I was just the editor. I didn't actually make the films, I just edited them. So I've worked in 2 film studios, and yeah, I just wanted to, I'm super hyped to kind of share my experience, and yeah, we'll go from there. Cool. Right. Whew. Oh geez. Okay, so let's jump into what was I gonna do? Oh yeah. Disclaimer. PMVs are friends of mine. No PMVs were harmed in the making of this live stream. Okay? And I got my little lanyard on. And I'm repping Best Pony. She's also back there as well. She's the best pony. Don't at me. Don't at me. She is clearly the best pony. Right. Hello, Rob. Oh, geez. Oh, gosh. Okay, so let's jump into Adobe Premiere. Now, I've spent quite a bit of time setting this up. So, I am in this source window here. So, welcome to my world. Welcome to my crazy editing world. This is what I deal with. So, I'm structuring this like a film, almost, I guess. So, this is going to be scene 1, the backstory. It's going to be me talking about, you know, my tragic backstory when my parents were killed in a gunfight, and then I ended up making, Discord. But essentially, yes, started 13 years ago. I got dragged kicking and screaming into the MLP fandom. I really didn't want to watch it. I thought, oh, it's too girly for me. Ended up being one of the biggest obsessions of my life, which I'm sure a lot of you can relate. Rainbow and Rarity are pretty good. Also, there's one thing I need to do before I get into that. There's this really annoying bug on my screen. So give me a sec. Just get out. There we go. Sorry. I hate it when there's flies, you know. nasty bug. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, let's lock it there. Jeez. But yes, I've worked in 2 film studios, and I've worked in over 6 feature films, editing and assistant editing them. And like I say, while they may not be the best films ever, somebody's got to start somewhere, you know. There's humble beginnings. So I'm proud of my work that I did on them, and I hope that this stream is inspirational and helpful to you all. So yes, that's pretty much it. What else did I want to say on scene 1, really? I will do like a Q&A session afterwards if you guys do have questions. What have I made? Oh yeah, well, if you don't know me, Discord, connected typography, do your thing, PMV, the Apogee videos, bring it all back, PMV. Heckin' a bunch of stuff. My YouTube is linked in my Twitch if you want to go check it out. But yes, I haven't been making as much stuff recently because I kind of quit the fandom, but I didn't really quit the fandom at all. I have tried SFM, yes. Okay, so what did I want to do? Yes, okay. I'm sorry if I'm all over the place, by the way. Nervous. Let's go on to scene 2. These are actually animated. I don't know why I'm not playing them. What if I just there we go. Kind of animated. It's got a bit of a flickering thing. And if you're wondering why this is mirrored, it's so when I point over there, I mean that screen over there. When I point down there, I mean that Twitch chat there, rather than having to do like an awkward swap. Yeah. Also, I realized earlier my microphone for months has been facing the other way, so that probably has impacted the audio quality. It's fixed now. Get to hear my dulcet tones. Right. So, getting into the industry. What do they tell you? Well, mainly what they tell you is network. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And I agree with that to a certain extent. However, I'm socially awkward, so that didn't really work. So my experience getting into the industry was really down to luck. It's really being in the right place at the right time. I actually made a bunch of profiles online for like a film and TV crew production websites, and as soon as I came out of university, my film class, they contacted me. They were just like, hey, we're looking for an assistant editor in feature film. I was like, what? That doesn't happen. I thought the story was you come out of uni and you work in retail a bunch. Anyway, I got made redundant after 7 months, and then I did end up working in retail. But very important to note that working in a dead-end job, or retail, or an office job, when you have a passion such as video editing, isn't the worst thing in the world, because it helps you realize what you want to do. And this world being the way it is, you have to make ends meet. So there's no shame in that at all. You can always pick it up later, and it always helps, I find, to do like boring repetitive stuff as a day job and then come home and make fun stuff on YouTube. So yes. Yeah, I know, right, Jack? It's flipped. Unbelievable. Breezy is a cutie. As you can see down there, I've actually shipped my OC with her because I love Pegasus ponies. Oh, I love her whole design and everything, so I love her. I wanted like as much Breezy on my screen as possible. Right, so that's yes, it's down to luck. It's down to luck. It's down to being in the right place at the right time and where you live. The the capital cities, so you know, London, Cardiff and stuff. I live in South Wales at the moment. Generally you'll find more media studios and film studios up that way, so it's not always logistical to get a film editing job, because it's quite a niche, right? Like people are looking for people to do wedding videos. They want the whole package. They want you to film, they want you to do the sound and the editing. But I only do the editing. So the more niche you get with what you want to edit and the skills that you bring, the harder it is to find a job. I'm still kind of looking at the moment. But yeah, don't discredit the smaller film studios, because any work is good work. Getting your foot in the door is good. So also, what happened as well is the last thing you saw on my show reel, the Chuck Steele Night of the Trampers. I'm sorry if I'm rambling on one point for too long here. The stop motion animation film that I edited. from a point of desperation, I was working in retail for about 7 months, and I decided I've had enough of this. So I emailed and called every film and animation studio in the UK, mainly in Wales. Didn't think that would work. Didn't think just going out of my way and being like, hey, you got a job, would work. But it did. They called me in, and it's, once again, just put yourself out there. It won't always work, but sometimes it does. A chat can lead into better things. Okay, so, right. Let's move on to scene number 3. Hopefully I'm not going too fast here. Marketing yourself, right. This is the most important one of all, to be honest. And what I wanted to do with this stream, mainly, is I wanted it to be accessible for more than just video editors. I don't want to get too technical here and alienate people. Oh jeez, I thought it was looping. D-loopers forgot to loop. Good job. Yes, marketing itself. I cannot underestimate the importance of confidence. I cannot underestimate the importance of believing in yourself and fighting your self-esteem and all of that. Because, take it from me, I'm one of the most socially anxious people in the world. And I've had body image issues for all of my life, and I've hated the way I look, I've hated the way I come across, my voice, everything about me. But you can get past it. You can get past it. And for me, the videos I make and the films I make and the editing I do feels homely to me. It's where I feel the most comfortable. So when you have the opportunity and you go into a different environment, like a job interview for a video editing job, there is nothing stopping you from being the person you want to be in that interview. The people across the table don't really know you. And it's the same when you go to conventions and stuff, and that's why I like going to BronyCons and stuff. It's because you can be whoever you want to be, and people are going to take that at face value and love you for it, you know? Love you for your online self. And a lot of my journey has been merging my online persona with my real life persona. And I hate this grumpy old git, this real life persona is just so shy and quiet and bleh, depressed. But if you merge that with the cutesy kind of upbeat, positive online self, they can cross over. They can. So yes, what I wanted to mention as well, and this is one of the reasons I made this live stream, do not be afraid of sharing your pony work with employers. Do not be afraid of putting them in showreels, because it is something you're passionate about. And when you're passionate about something, you come to life. It doesn't matter how shy you are. It doesn't matter how quiet and reserved you are. When you're talking about something you love, it really just shows. Your eyes start to shine and the confidence starts coming through. So even though MLP is, you know, embarrassing to talk about, oh no, we're full-grown males, etc. It's really important to go past that and say, look, I've made a bunch of cool stuff, video editing wise, with MLP. I would hope that the employers are creative enough themselves, and they've got probably a screw loose themselves, to understand that it's not really about it being a children's show, really, is it? It's about the skills that you're putting in to the PMVs. It's about what you're actually making out of that. So yeah, just be proud of it. Be proud of what you make. And for me, it's almost like a forceful kind of approach. It's telling yourself that you are good enough and smiling at yourself in the mirror. And the way I see it, it's like a seesaw. Confidence and insecurity is on a seesaw. And at one end of the scale, you've got the extreme of confidence, kind of egotistical. On the other side of the scale, you've got the insecurity and no self-esteem at all. You need to aggressively flip it if you can, and fake it until you make it. It's really, really good point of advice. It's different for everyone, but fake it until you make it. Keep telling yourself you are good enough, and eventually you start to believe it. It's like manipulating your mind, really. But yes, let me go through my notes, because I've kind of put down talking points here, but I haven't wrote a full script. This was a bit of a rush job, so I've just wrote a bunch of stuff. When it comes to interviews, act like the person across from you is a normal person. If you can just have a normal conversation with them, that really helps, because that's all it is. You will be working with this person and there is a lot of pressure, but be honest about who you are and talk to them, and just, you have to eliminate the barrier of them being the interviewer, you being the interviewee, them having the higher ground, because technically they do, but if you eliminate that and you're more casual, they're going to feel more relaxed, and it helps. This is being recorded. I'm going to put it up on YouTube afterwards. And yes, relationships are important. So yeah, like, you know, be proud of yourself and what you make. The worst that can happen is rejection. And once you get past that, rejection can kind of be like gaining experience, really. It's like leveling up. The more you're rejected, the stronger you become. You learn what doesn't work, you learn what does work. And even ask the interviewer, you know, what did I do well? What did you like about this? Kind of read their body image. Body image? Body language. But I've got so much, like, a mess of words on my screen right now. Oh, jeez. Yes, okay. So, you need to talk about your skills as well in a better way. Part of marketing yourself and selling yourself is about not so much exaggerating what you've done, but putting it in a nicer way for anyone who's watching, anyone who's looking at your CV or resume. So, for example, I worked on Ponies the Anthology. How did I put that? Well, I said, look, I've worked on a global collaboration with a bunch of creators, all living in different time zones. So you've got teamwork's really important there. Communication is really important. Working across different platforms, working with different programs. There's so much you can take from a seemingly, like, collaboration of memes and stuff, right? Like, Anthology isn't the most hardcore of abstract art, is it? But I'm saying you can make it sound really nice and really cool. But yes. Yeah, exactly. There's also a good quote that I heard on Game Grumps, of all places, Dan Avidan, and he got it from somewhere else, so I don't know where the origins are, but he said, never call yourself an aspiring editor or an aspiring artist or whatever you are. Always say you are an artist, you are an editor, because that's what you're doing. And if you're subconsciously putting yourself down to the level of, I'm not good enough to be this yet, but I will be someday, then you're never going to get there. It's about living in the moment and connecting with what you do and yeah, have the confidence to do that. Knowing the Anthology crew to be rolling in the forefront. I know. It's like I had Discord as my featured video on YouTube, and people would go on there and they'd be like, why? You're just fulfilling the meme. And I was like, yeah, but this looks the most attractive to employers that I've gained this many views, and I put my heart into that project. So, you know. Okay, let's move on to compare. I do have a bunch more inspirational stuff, and I'll get onto that later. But I'm gonna go on to scene number 4, and that is PMV versus film. Now, the nitty-gritty of it all, yeah? So what you're here for. So, how are they different? How do they differ? I think people have this conception that films are really hard to edit. I think they think that PMVs generally down there, films are up here in terms of difficulty. I would say it's the other way around. I would say films are bare bones when it comes to editing. There's difficulty there for sure, but depending on how you edit PMVs, and for me, I like to put a lot of motion graphics in, and I like to go kind of over the top in After Effects and do more than just standard cutting for the most part. With PMVs, it can almost become a short film in itself, and then, not to kind of hype it up too much, but you become the kind of director, the writer, the producer, the writer of a PMV. But if you're making stuff like Day of the Flutter or something with a bit of story, and you have to do storyboards and stuff for it, and all of a sudden you're taking on a lot at once. Whereas when it comes to film, if you are a film editor, that's what you are. You are part of a already pre-put together jigsaw. You are just one piece. And that's something you really do find working like these film studios is that you are at the end of the process. The film has already been come up with. They've storyboarded it. They've shot it. They know how that film is going to be essentially imagined and envisioned, and that's the way why they shot it like they did, or why they wrote it like they did. Your job is just to honor that original idea and do your best to make it interesting and engaging. And sometimes you can't save a film with just editing. You really can't. Sometimes you can, if you go completely nuts and become the director, in a sense. But it's for the most part, it's pretty easy. I'd say the pieces are laid out. You're just gonna have to put them in order, really. And I think the difficulty when working with films is working with others, because all of a sudden, when you're shifted from this world of everything is your idea and your creation to you're dealing with somebody else's creation, it's a lot more precious and it's a lot more delicate a process. Like I said, my main thing has always been protecting that initial idea and seeing the vision for it and then seeing what they actually have. Often the case is that they didn't shoot enough footage, or they didn't shoot the best footage, and you can tell, well, there's not much I can do with this. That's most of the frustration and difficulty is, well, how do I make this look good? Because I've only got that. If they do reshoots or something, maybe we can fix it, but fix it in post is the bane of my existence, let me tell you. Oh gosh, the college and university experience of people shooting an empty fireplace. Hey, it's fine, we'll put it in post. Yeah, I have to deal with the lighting now. I have to put a realistic fire in there. I have to do the sound effects. Oh my gosh. It's the magical edit button. It fixes everything. So, it has its pros and cons, really, when you're working at films. Because dealing with a lot of people, it's not for everyone. And I do kind of like working on PMVs and stuff by myself. Doing something you love as a full-time job is definitely different. Because when you're making, your own videos, you're doing it in your own time, out of your own inspiration. But when it comes to films, you have to force that creativity out of you as a day job. And it can kind of grind you down a bit. And I found myself going through that, especially towards the start, because some days you don't feel like editing, but you have to. You don't feel like doing it, but you have to get it out. And there's value in forcing that out, really. Yes, movies. Well, 9 to 5. Movies take a long time to edit. Hello, Nighty. What's up? First, you have to do the rough. Well, the rushes, which come from the camera. And I am going to do a Q&A session now, but I know I'm later anyway. You got the rushes that come from the camera, so you put in them together for the director to see. Then you're doing the assembly edit, then the rough cut, then the fine cut, then the picture lock. There's a lot of different cuts that you have to do for a movie. And there's always people coming in and overseeing the process. There's always the director there. And you have to be okay with them saying no. It's almost detaching the work from your heart, because I try to put my heart in everything I do. But when I was working on movies, when you're told no a bunch and they have a different vision to you, you have to be like, okay, and be flexible with that and make those changes, even though it feels wrong. It feels fighting your gut, but you have to. It's part of the process there. Hello, Atomic. How's it going? Okay, so yes, what I'm gonna do as well is, I'm sorry if this is so destructured and a mess. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think it's very important to do a lot of motion graphic stuff with PMVs. I think it's very important to put custom assets in and play about with it, because you don't need super fancy equipment to make films. You don't need that to gain the skills. You can make incredible things with your phone. The last video I made, heckin' voicemail, the Twilight messaging, that was all shot on my phone. You can do amazing things just with the lighting that God gives us, and some cool angles. You can put low quality vectors of Equestria girls and make a compelling story. You can do it, or there's nothing stopping you from putting basic shapes into Premiere or After Effects and adding emotional development to them, you know? It seems really dumb and stuff, but you don't need the best equipment. And what you'll find if you just go straight for the best equipment, you don't know the base skills. So making PMVs and making these things, there's extreme value in them. There's so much you can learn from just fandom content, and I wish more people realize that. Okay, so yeah, the more skills you'll have under your belt, so the more creative you get. It's always helpful. You can say, oh, I've worked in After Effects, I've worked in Photoshop, I've worked in Flash. You have knowledge of all these, and that's super good when you're going into a job. It's super good to be multi-talented and to show initiative. And always remember you can learn on the job as well. If they're asking, for example, for you to use Final Cut, and you've only used a bit of Final Cut, well, that's fine. Say that you're pretty experienced with it, because you have to jump into the deep end with these things. Take like a crash course on Final Cut and see how much you can learn, because that's when you're going to learn, really. So don't put yourself down. Always shoot for the stars, because you might end up pretty close. Okay, so the next bit I'm going to talk about, a bit more involved now. Scene 5. I haven't timed this out, so I will hope that I don't go too short on time or over time, but I've got stuff to ramble about in case it comes down to that. Editing techniques, right? So these are things that I think will help, and things that I've used, for example, in my PMVs. So just gonna take a drink for a sec because my mouth is dying. Yeah, it's like when people put down Windows Movie Maker. It's not a bad program. It depends what you make with it. Windows Movie Maker is absolutely fantastic for putting together slideshows. It's really good if you've just got a home video and all you need to do is resize it or export it into a different format. Don't put down these programs. Microsoft Paint, you can do a lot in there. These free softwares will actually get you very far. Okay, so let's talk about some filmic techniques, and if you are any sort of creative, these will probably be pretty obvious and pretty surface level. I'm not going to go too deep because this is just an hour-long panel. I just want to show you some things that I've tried to utilize in my own PMVs when I've used the custom assets anyway. So, rule of thirds in Day of the Flutter and All This Time. It's essentially a composition rule. You see this red grid here. For some reason, the human eye tends to think things are more interesting when they are on the sort of third line axis, if that makes sense. So rather than being centered like this, Rainbow Dash is on the line, but there, okay? And if you start structuring things this way, I think it looks quite cool. So that's why I did that in All This Time, my PMV part. And I was doing it in Day of the Flutter too. And that leads me on to the next bit, which is depth of field. So, pretty self-explanatory, but you can do, essentially, a camera is a very complicated and intense piece of equipment. There's a lot going on, there's a lot of skin tones and stuff. When you're working with the bare essentials of like shapes and assets from like MLP with like solid colors, you can play about. It's not as complicated, which is a good thing. Did I say nepth? Oh god, I'm sorry. My mouth is dying. Yes. So this is a focus pull, and there's people who are paid to do this professionally on sets. This is their job, to get like an object in the foreground, an object in the background, and change the focus from the foreground to the background. Very easy to replicate on here. All you do is add a Gaussian blur, and you're ramping it up and ramping it down. So I think it's very cool. And that's what I was playing about with in Day of the Flutter and past my initial PMVs, and when I was starting to make collaboratory stuff. I wanted to mess about with this stuff. I knew I wasn't the best at it, but I thought it looked pretty good. And that leads me on to the parallax effect. Now, it's all about like immersing the viewer, right, and making things look cool. So with 2D assets at least, and the layers you have in these programs, you can create a sort of parallax effect, and this is what animators do and artists do. It's essentially when the object in the foreground is moving slower than the object, moving faster than the object in the background. So for example, you'd see a car going along, it's going quite fast. The mountains, if they're moving as well, they're not going to be going at the same speed. Easier just to show you. See, so you can see the hill in the foreground is going a lot faster. It creates a sense of like 3D depth, and that's another cool thing that you can do. Motion blur, this can ruin things. This can really ruin things if you add too much of it, but I do like using it to create a sense of speed. It's used a lot more effectively in film, and it goes very in depth with the kind of the lenses and stuff. But play about with that, very good. This is what I used in Wonder Worlds and Go, and I've used in a bunch of stuff. Color theory. Now this is one of my favorites, and you can really go in depth with this. But just to show you like a quick example of complementary colors, and it's fairly easy. You see this color wheel. The arrows represent which colors are complementary with each other, so which generally look good with each other, so things do match. So blue and orange, green and red, yellow and purple and yellow. So I do like playing about in my PMVs with this. Here, very basic example. I've taken Applejack's colors, put them behind Rainbow Dash colors, put them behind Applejack. It kind of works to highlight their competitiveness and show that they're two polar opposites in a sense, but also the same. And yeah, you can do things like that in PMVs. You can tell a story visually, or tell a story through color, I think is the most important way to put it. You can tell emotions through color, tell emotions through sound. There's so many different aspects rather than just exposition, and I do like telling stories through my visuals. So, you know, that applies a lot more to film. I've shown you a very brief example of a film I made back in uni. The vibe you kind of get from this, oh, look at him go. That'll be me after this, drinking all the vodka, sip, sip, sip. So I like editing, you can just mess around with people. Make them into live YouTube poops, it's great. But yeah, you get a kind of summery vibe from this. The sun is shining, he's drinking wine, summer afternoon, happiness, warmth, home. But then you add a bit of contrast, and suddenly Evanescence, Bring Me to Life. We've got the kind of depressing tones, the kind of nighttime, cold, misery. You know, the sense of like orange and reds are like warm and nice and homely. Blue and greens are kind of like steel, unnatural, cold. So you can use those things just by color correcting. You can do some cool things. But color correction in MLP is hit or miss. You've got to understand that these are block pastels. So if you try to color correct Rainbow Dash, you're going to turn her into an OC, essentially. You can do things like you can turn it from day to night. That's a pretty easy effect to do, and some subtle ones. But I think when people try to color correct PMVs too much, it becomes a bit like too artificial and weird. Okay, so MLP is essentially like barfing a rainbow. There are so many intense colors in there. And I try to play off that in my PMVs. I try to use these primary colors and the tinting options. That was what I was playing about within the city part here. And doing some cool things with like, you know, these gradients. Going on Google, searching for grunge textures, rainbow overlays. Just go nuts with it. It might not be your work, but I'm not earning money off this. It's just, you can play around with overlay effects. That's a lot what I like to do. And once again, playing about with the characters, so red, orange, no. Yellow, orange, red, and like a traffic-like theme, and playing about the seasons in the background, with the trees, the orchards, changing seasons. I love playing about that stuff. So, next I want to talk about smoothing the cut. So this gets more into like the beat and how innate the beat is to you. editing theory, basically. But there's a book called In the Blink of an Eye, and it's by Walter Murch. And I'm not going to go all Vsauce on you. I'm not going to get super analytical. But essentially, he compares video editing and the cuts of video editing into an eye blinking. And he talks about like the evolutionary reason that we cut films the way we do, because it's not natural for your eyes to close, then you open, and for you to end up somewhere else. That's not natural. Generally, we blink and then we're in the exact same space. So that this act of cutting and going from one place to the other in rapid styles of cuts, that's not natural. So there's ways that you can smooth it, and there's ways that we can kind of, even though the viewer is in a fictional world, there's ways that we can make it smooth for them and not as jarring. So, in relationship to the sorry, I went on to the next bit. Yeah, this whole topic is smoothing the cut, right? So eye trace is one way you can do this. And this is essentially tracking a point in the shot, at least when you're doing a film, where the audience's eyes are. So, of course, we're very good at facial recognition. Our eyes are going to be instantly drawn to the faces and the way they move. And filmmakers can do some cool things with this, because they can be tracking a person, but then in the foreground you'll have another person and the shot will stay there. So they are actively aware of where the viewer's eyes are going. And there's ways you can utilize this in a good way for PMVs and a bad way for PMVs. For example, if I were to play this, that isn't a good cut, because our eyes are over here, an Applejack, then they're darting over here in a completely different color space, then they're darting over here. So, I like to create some sense of continuity, some sense of story in my PMVs. So all of a sudden we're in the same color space. Rainbow Dash is going from the right to left, and then she's going back to the left. So it's a line. It's not there. It's a line, and there's ways you can do that. Patterns, another way I edit. I tend to find patterns in the clips that I use. So all of this, even though they're all from different episodes, I like to think they are flying in one sort of flight pattern. They're going in one direction. It's all one after the other kind of thing, right? Like they're going down this way and then they're flying over there. And it's a very simplified way of putting it. But I like to find patterns in what I make. Even if I'm making a clip show, I will think, right, is there repeated use of this motion? Have they done it before in the show? Can I put those together? Can I sync the motion so that Rainbow Dash's hoof syncs up with Fluttershy's hoof, tilting across, right? And that is cool for the viewer. I hope that's cool for the viewer. It smooths the cuts and makes things seem a lot more clean and nice. So I do try to do that quite a lot in my PMVs. Yes, and for this bit, in Never Forget, which I really enjoyed editing, just one giant clip show, but I was finding, Rainbow Dash is in the sky, Twilight's looking up, Pinky's looking up, and then Fluttershy's in the top of a tree. So you're finding patterns in the way you edit and patterns in scenes and stuff, and then even though it's different color spaces and different characters, it works, it blends it together. Transitions, yes, you can get super creative with your transitions as well. Edgar Wright in Hot Fuzz and his Cornetto trilogy and stuff, he's very good at visual transitions. You'll also look at like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. There's more than just like fades and stuff. It's taking the visuals and making them fade into each other. So in the showreel, for example, I took The Mare in the Moon and I faded it and made sure the element of Harmony Orb was the same size. So that is quite cool for the viewer. It's transporting them to a different place and a different time and everything. But yeah, you can turn the sun into the moon and stuff like that, right? And same here, we've gone along with a circular theme. We've gone from this scene to a different section, but we're going along with the circles. The viewer is on the center of the frame. Frame rate, right, okay. Frame rate, oh boy. There's a badge that I like. Disable resample. Oh, you can't really put it full camera. There you go. Disable resample. Oh boy, let's talk about the sins I have made. So I made this reach comparison video, and essentially I created a lot of pony ghosts. Oh boy. What you'll see, and this is an important lesson for films, is that the frame rate you set your project at, so MLP is in a native 24 frames per second, so that means there's 24 pictures of MLP per second, and the standard for like YouTube and stuff is 30. So if you put it into Sony Vegas and you don't disable the resample, what Vegas is trying to do is compensate for those 6 that you don't see. So it's like, oh well, hold on, there's 6 more frames you have to fill. We'll like put it into our awful method of resampling and create a bunch of ghosts for you. This works well with films. Films are a lot more fluid. There's a lot more kind of delicate motions. When it's animation, oh god. So you go back to my 2011, 2012 videos. This is abundant, absolutely abundant. But then I remade it in 2015. And you don't have that issue, and color correction as well. In this case, I've boosted the saturation. I don't have this kind of desaturated, the hub logo look to them. Yes. Right, so that's my heckin' experience with, what was I talking about? Editing techniques, yes. So, I'm coming along to the cliffhanger. Dun dun dun. So this is just miscellaneous points that I wanted to make. Yes, another good 2 points of inspiration that I wanted to talk about. This comic. I edited it so it says holy heck instead of the other word. But, right, when you're making stuff, something you might wander into is comparing yourself to others. And this is an easy pitfall to get lost in. And one mindset I like that helps me is thinking, you know, the audience sees 2 cakes. And rather than them seeing your viewpoint of, oh, you know, that cake is way better than mine, they're going to think those 2 are really good cakes. That they're not going to compare as harshly as you do. And people are kind in the way they think. They are willing to see the good in things. And people do. They really try to, especially if they are a friend and they care about your content. So that's a good mindset. I like to think that everyone doesn't think as harshly of me as I think of myself. Another good thing, there was a letter that Pete Docter wrote, and he was an animator on Toy Story and Up, and he's been in Pixar for about 30 years. And he wrote a letter to middle schoolers, giving them some advice. And there's one, it's a very good letter. I recommend you have a look at it. Just Google Pete Docter letter. But the ending paragraph here, whatever you like doing, do it. And keep doing it. Work hard. In the end, passion and hard work beats out natural talent. So, I think this resonates with me because in ye olden days, I was getting like 10 views per PMV and stuff like that, right? I think if you are determined enough and passionate about something, it will shine through. And the determination to keep going, even though other people might seem naturally talented at what they do, they might not have the determination and resilience to keep going. So they might end up petering out, such as the story of Pete when he was in petering out Pete. When he was in CalArts, he found a lot of people were more talented than him. So he felt very kind of unmotivated and stuff, but he kept at it. A lot of them kind of disappeared into the ether, and he kept going, and he ended up working on Toy Story and Up. So yes, always keep at it. Don't think you're not good enough. Okay, so I'm in the last 10 minutes now, so this is going to be a Q&A session. If you guys have any questions, I will answer them. Otherwise, I'll keep rambling. There's a bunch of stuff I can ramble on, don't you worry. So let me just close this. And go back to my original bits. There we go, I put the do you think pinky in the background. His YouTube XP accounted for nothing when looking for IRL Hollywood work. Yes, horse fame doesn't really equate to anything. Horse fame is like a Z-list celebrity. YouTube subscribers don't really account for much, but I think there's so much to be gained from that, and you can also use it on your resume and say you've got over 56,000 subscribers, you've got 18 million views. That's good to carry through. But yeah, in terms of where you stand from what you actually make, that's down to you. You have to essentially start from the beginning once you're in a film studio making your first film. Zealous. Yes. Horse fame isn't real. You can't pay your bills with horse fame. Sure, some people would disagree, but I try and think of it as novelty than this celebrity status. It's always weird when I go to conventions and people are like, oh, sign this thing. I'm like, why? Nuggets. Nuggets are the best. Chicken nuggets all the way. Oh, if you know me to any level, I love chicken nuggets. I'm so sad that McDonald's is closed right now. Is there a film or PMV that you wished you'd edited? I wish I'd edited? Heck, man. I mean, when it comes to films, there's a bunch of stuff I wish I had the chance to work on. Spider-Verse is my all-time favorite film. Tops everything. I love that film. It is so bursting with creativity and it is perfection in every sense for me. I came out of the theater after watching that and I thought, am I the only one who loved that so much? In this world saturated by 3D models of the heckin' Minions and doing like they've done a Grinch movie and stuff, it's so refreshing to see that 2D animation is still alive and people are still putting their heart into it. That takes forever. I go into After Effects, it takes forever. I know it looks good at the end, but it takes so long to actually get what I want. But it looks good. So I have huge respect for animators, I have huge respect to artists, and Spider-Verse, I want to be an animation editor more than anything. When I worked on Chuck Steele, the stop motion animation film, which should hopefully be in cinemas eventually, I loved that because everyone is nuts. You're surrounded by so much creativity and talent and artists. I love them. Can't sing their praises enough. I wanted to be an artist myself. But anyway, that's enough of rambling about that question. Have I hid horses in non-pony projects? Ooh, I haven't. I don't think I have. I mean, they're in my showreel, right? They're all over my showreel, and I'm just like, yeah, I worked with children's media. Yeah, totally. And they're like, whoa, you worked on a children's show? I was like, kind of. A video is in a different world than art. Oh, that's deep. Does the act of adding emotion to images change it fundamentally? It's an act of storytelling, isn't it? Art is storytelling, music is storytelling, videos are storytelling. The interesting thing about videos is that they're a combination of sound and art and moving image. And I don't know, I guess it's just the purpose, isn't it? The purpose they serve, and the art can be very kind of high and abstract and super kind of cloudy in what it is. Films pretty much follow the same formula, don't they? They just want to make money. French fries. How did you overcome social awkwardness situations? It's fighting them. It's the act of just doing it. When you feel that fight or flight response, just fight it. Just say it's all in your head and keep going. Because I think when you think you're a blundering mess, you're not. Everyone doesn't see you as that. And if you're acting confident and pretending you're confident, people are probably going to think you are confident. And like I said, it's a fake it till you make it approach. It's no props. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Let me just scroll up to see if there's anything else. Popeyes or Chick-fil-A? I've only had Chick-fil-A once. I haven't had Popeyes. I'm British. I went to Chick-fil-A when I went to BrownieCon. It was alright. Overrated. What was the hardest project you ever did? Ooh. Heck, man. Discord was the most grueling because I was doing so much in such a short time frame. I had 3 months to learn After Effects and pull that all together and juggle a bunch of like learning how to drive, college deadlines, a bunch of family stuff. There was so much going on when I was making Discord. So much that almost drove me to have like a breakdown. That was probably hard in the kind of exterior sense. Internally, I don't know, Day of the Flood was pretty grueling, very long, but worth it. I think like projects like Do Thing very fun to make. They take forever, but when you're having fun, like the Apogee stuff, I love just seeing how far I can go with just a small little animated GIF, to be honest. If you can give yourself one bit of advice back in 2012, what would it be? 2012, I was a different person. I was a lot more consumed by the magic of MLP, right? And I was hiding it. And I think, to a sense, I still hide it, even though this is all putting on. This is going straight back in the drawer afterwards. Pretend I'm not into MLP. No, I have a million MLP things. Yeah, don't hide it. You know, to a certain point, be proud of yourself. Don't act like your online self is super different from who you are, because the same person. You can be whoever you want to be, and it's a lot easier once you get past education. You have the freedom to be who you want, and people are going to admire that. They will eventually. How much do I love Saku? I love her so dearly. She's the love of my life. Loopy, you're very gay. Those two conflicting statements there, but yes, I agree to both of those. How many cancelled projects do you have? Oh, so many. So many. Inspiration is very hard to maintain when you're dealing with projects that take so long. I tend to work on bigger projects, so like 3 to 6 months sometimes. And that's a lonely process. That's a hard process to go through for such a long time. And for what little payoff you sometimes get. So a lot of them just get lost. I have this super burst of inspiration, but then you come back to it a week later, you're like, oh, this again. Stuff like the BoJack video, I got very far in it, but yeah. How's life? Life's good. Life's doing alright. Things have been a bit stressful prepping for this panel, making it look super cool, but we're good. We're good. I'm glad that I did this. This is very cool. I guess coming to the end of the panel now, make stuff for you is the number one bit of advice that I would give. I think a lot of people try really hard to make for somebody else, make what other people want, and to a certain point you can do that, but I think you have to enjoy the journey as much as the final outcome. It's really important. I fall in love with my own editing, and maybe that's a bit egotistical, but I love it when I have this vision and I'm putting it on screen and I'm like, oh, this is so cool, and I can't show anyone. I can't show anyone unless I do live streams. I have a very kind of single track mind, and when it comes to projects I really love working on, oh geez, I just get super invested. And that's great, that's part of the payoff for me anyway. I know not a lot of creators feel that and they hate their own work, but learning to love it is equally as valuable as improving. If you can be who you want to be, why hide the plushies and posters? Because I'm still fighting that. I'm still working it out, even though it may seem like I'm all high and mighty giving advice to you all now. I'm not. I'm struggling just as much as you all are. It's a slow process. It doesn't happen overnight. And I think when I get my own place, I'll be a lot more confident to be who I am when I'm in a different environment. But I'm living with my parents at the moment, so I'm still feeling that restriction mentally, even though I know I have the power to... It's me fighting myself, essentially, right? That's why all the posters are up, that's why I'm putting stuff out, that's why I'm wearing this, and the Dashi t-shirt. I'm like, I'm gonna be this person, and beating it out of me. So, yeah. Can I do my best American accent? Not really, it's awful. Okay, so yes, I guess that will be the end of it then. It's time for me to end this. So thank you all for coming. I really hope you have a great con, and I really appreciate your viewership. Make sure to check out the rest of the con, the vendor hall especially. Donate to the United Nations Foundation, yes. Donate to United Way, and to the staff at Midair PonyCon, thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful that you let me be here. And yeah, have a good time, you guys. Thank you so much, and I love you all. I love you. Hot. Bye, guys. See ya. This will be up on YouTube after, hopefully. Yes. Okay. Bye.